Hello everyone, welcome to the Ridge Podcast. Today's episode is a bit of a weird one. Normally we do interviews, book talks, or topic talks, but today we're doing a race recap. And we're doing one on the Froggy Mountain 100 miler that was just a few days ago. When we interviewed Mr. Paul Tilley a few weeks ago, we briefly mentioned it in the episode, but we didn't go into detail. But today, I'm going to share interviews, testimonials, and moments that both Luke and I have witnessed from this amazing feat of endurance and strength. To start, I'm going to share pre-race interviews from 3 participants. Sadly, I did not get a chance to interview Paul Tilley himself before the race, but I did interview Rosie, Zach, and Andy. Everyone, this is Rosie. What's your last name?
Gagnon.
Rosie Gagnon?
Rosie Gagnon.
And she's from Washington, D.C. area?
Berryville.
Berryville,
yes,
okay.
Yeah, out in the country, a ways from D.C., which is nice.
Yeah. And this is right maybe 8 hours before the Froggy Mountains 100 miler.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I lost my oldest son, Dexter, to he was a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide about 5.5 years ago, and I'd already done a couple ultramarathons before then, but after losing him, I just kind of needed something, and I wanted to try and memorialize him, and so I started. I also wanted to deal with the trauma of that, what that means, and so I started running 100 milers, and I ran a couple just with his picture and just in his memory. And then there was kind of a point after, I think it was my fifth 100 miler. Anyway, I was introduced to a couple organizations that do, that run or hike or bike or whatever for veteran suicide awareness. Okay. So I got involved in those, and I had already decided to do 100 hundreds. In his memory, 100 hundreds for Dexter. And so I started running with those groups, and I usually carry a couple other Marine Corps veterans with me when I run 100 milers. And so hopefully Froggy Mountain will be number 53.
Wow.
And I met Paul. I ran Grindstone last year, Grindstone 100, and that's a tough race, hard rock qualifier. At least it was last year. This year it's a UTMB, but I was looking for a pacer, so I just kind of threw it out in a local group, and Paul volunteered, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but 50 miles with me out there, and we got a solid finish and just had an awesome time. And so we've run a couple races since. He's paced me at two other races, and he came and did a solo run with me on the anniversary of Dexter's death. I usually run from my home in Berryville to Washington, D.C., kind of circle around D.C. and end at the Marine Corps Monument, so he did that with me. So he's just really special, and so I'm just so excited to be down here and supporting him, doing his, putting on his own 100 miler, and he is hardcore, and I hope I can live up to his course, because he's an amazing person, and cares a lot, has such a big heart, and has been really a big support to me. So it's great to be here, and hopefully I can finish. Yeah. It's gonna be tough.
I'm sure you'll do great. Have you ran the course yet?
Nope, I have not.
Have you heard about it?
The worst I've heard about it is what you told me, how slippery it is when it's wet. So no. I finished. I did Cruel Jewel in when is that run? In May, and that has 33,000 feet of gain, and that was the most. I mean, that was mind blowing. It was a lot. So the thought of this is almost
47,000.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. But he knows I'm slow, so he gave us a good generous cutoff. So I figure, even if I'm crawling towards the end, we'll figure out how to get it done. So this will be a good test for how long it actually takes somebody to finish, and kind of average. I'm sort of an average middle of the packer, so should be able to gauge that pretty well.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you mind if I interview periodically throughout the race?
Oh, not at all. No.
Stop doing a lap.
No, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, it was great to meet you,
Great to meet
and
you
thanks
too.
for being here this weekend. That's fun.
Thank
Good
you.
people.
So. do you mind mentioning your name?
Okay, yeah, Zach Coggins, yeah, from Franklin, North Carolina.
So tell me a bit about yourself, where you're from, how you met Paul, what got you interested in the race.
So I'm from, well, right now I live in Franklin, North Carolina. I grew up in the Greensboro area. I met Paul really by total coincidence. I registered for a race at Pilot Mountain last year, which was actually my first ultra. It was Pilot Mountain 50 miler. I had ran a marathon in March of that year of 2021 and kind of was like, hey, I want to do one of these longer races. They look fun. I actually saw the YouTube video that advertised the race, and I was like, it just looked cool, being out in the woods, running, headlamp, that kind of thing. And so, so I signed up for it and spent the rest of my summer after that marathon training and building my miles up to run it. And at the time of the race, I had never ran anything longer than about 26 miles. A few times I had ran like that distance, but I had never ran anything longer. And Hurricane Ian came that weekend, and they said all week long, like, don't worry, the race is going to be on. It's going to be, we're going to run it. And then on Friday afternoon at like 4 o'clock, they canceled the race. Man, I was super bummed, super pissed. Kind of was like throwing a fit at the house because I had spent all summer, training and putting a lot of time into it. And that was like I said, that was my first opportunity to kind of go out there and push myself. And then since they canceled it, I was kind of just like upset. And I noticed on Facebook there was some chatter of some people that were like already in town that were going to run it. And they're like, because they said the course was marked. They said, go out there and run it if you want to. And actually another guy kind of organized it all. I think he's from Gay Like Sue. His name's Landon. He was the one kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this run if anybody wants to join me. And so we have 2 little boys, and we had already had them picked up by my mother-in-law to be watched for the weekend. My wife was going to be my crew for the day. And I was like, would you go out there and drive around for tomorrow while we run this? And she said, sure. So we all met at like 6 a.m. in Pilot Mountain, and Paul was one of the 4. It was me, Landon, Paul, and another guy named Chris, I think, or Clayton. Anyways, the 4 of us took off at like 6 in the morning and started running this course, and throughout the day just ran together and, talked about how we got into running and what kind of races we had done. And to be honest, the first half of the day, I was like pretty worried that I got myself in way too deep because Paul and the other guys were exchanging a lot of race stories and a lot of different distances and crazy stuff that I had never even came close to doing. And I'm like, well, I'm about here running with these guys, and I've never done more than 4 or 5 hours in the woods, and we're about to spend 12 or more. And so we all ran together, and it was kind of funny. I was giving everything I had all day long, and about maybe 10 hours into it, he goes, okay, we're going to turn it up a little bit so we can finish within 12 hours. And I was like, I ain't got nothing else left in the tank. I was like, I'm going to finish, but I'm not finishing in 12 hours. So they took off, and I ended up finishing the race. We all hung out together at the end area, and just kind of like all bonded in overrunning the race when no one else did it. So we like to say we have the sweat. They gave the sweatshirts out to everybody, but we like to joke that there's only a couple people that can wear the sweatshirt and actually say we did it. So that was cool. And then just other than that, the only other time me and Paul have ever ran together is we ran the Triple Crown Loop in 1st of May. I just wanted to do a loop in Virginia, and I figured he was close enough that he'd at least know about it or know where we go, and so we did that. And I haven't been able to get up here to Froggy Mountain yet, but when he said he was going to do a 100-mile race, I was actually training to run a 100-mile race. I was registered to run one June 10th. That was going to be my first 100-mile distance, and the race also got canceled about a week out for different issues. And and I was kind of, in the same boat, like bummed out again. Like, man, I put another year into this training and nothing to really do to show for it. So he popped a message saying he was going to do a 100-mile run, and I was like, well, no better time to go out and see if I can do it. I'd rather do it with people because, the one thing about running the woods and trail running, like, if you're on a race by yourself, it's a lot harder than when you're with people and you can, time goes by. Exactly, yeah. So, so I was excited to try that, and yeah, here we are.
Definitely a mental challenge.
Yeah, I know this is going to be more of a mental struggle than the physical,
especially because it's 1 mile loop.
The loops, exactly. The loops are going to wear you down quick. So I'm just trying to go at it like 5 miles at a time, and just slow and steady get it done. Do
you mind if you ever stopped between laps? Do you mind if I ask you like how you're feeling? And
yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we're gonna set up our tent is right there, kind of where the porta-john is, and we're gonna have a little like this, a little sun shelter that I'm gonna have set up for my little aid station as well, or my little like stop point. So anytime, I don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll probably just say, sucks.
Yeah, sucks. Hanging in there. It's awful, but I'm doing
surviving, it. I'm probably in between shoveling some food down and drinking some water, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
My name's Andy from Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Okay. How'd you meet Paul?
I met Paul through racing, trail racing.
Yeah.
I think it was at the Table Rock in 2021.
Okay. Yeah. How'd you hear about the 100-miler?
I was up here for Grayson Highlands.
Okay,
I'd never been to Froggy Mountain, so I called Paul and said I was coming into town, and it just so happened they were going to be out there running an aid station. So I came out here and walked halfway up the hill, and he kind of expressed to him how steep this was and
it's crazy.
How insane he is, and then he said they were going to do a 100-miler out here, and here we are.
Yeah, sign me up, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. How are you feeling about tomorrow? You think you'll finish all 100 miles, or?
I don't know. I don't really. I just want to feel good and relax. Like it's really warm.
Yeah,
and humid, but it's it'll be tough to do 100, but if my body will let me do it, my mind can handle the loops. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to.
Do you have a race plan of sorts?
Just take it easy.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of funny because tomorrow's the 21st, right?
Tomorrow is, yes.
Yeah, so the 21st of July last year, I started the Ouray 100, which has 45,000 feet of climbing.
Okay, so it's close to this.
And I DNF'd it. And so I thought it'd be maybe a little poetic.
Yeah, redemption.
If I was able to do this on a 1 mile loop and to the tune of what, 50,000?
Yeah,
so that might be neat.
I think the number was like 4750.
Or 47, yeah.
500,
so yeah, that'd be neat. But again, I don't have a goal except for to have fun and hang out here at Froggy Mountain, really.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Do you mind if I check in with you in between loops if you're at an aid station?
Oh, not at all, please.
Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you.
Please.
Good luck tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeffrey Watson from the Ridge Podcast. I want to summarize the events from this weekend. As you know, a few weeks ago we had on Mr. Paul Tilley onto the podcast, and he owns and operates New River Outfitters, which is a shop in Galax. He also runs Froggy Mountain Adventures. And Froggy Mountain is a mountain that Mr. Paul Tilley owns up on his property, and he has a 1 mile loop on this property, and the loop is pretty crazy. It has 500 feet of upward elevation in a 1 mile loop, so it's pretty hard. It's pretty technical. It is single track, and when we had him on a few weeks ago, he explained that they're having a 100-miler Ultramarathon on Froggy Mountain called the Froggy Mountain 100. I'm recording this a few weeks later, and the event has happened. Me and Ethan went Friday morning. They started out Friday morning, and they had, I think, 4 competitors doing the 100-miler. Me and Ethan went. We had to meet very early in town, and we headed up together to the property and to the race site to see him head out. And when we get there, it was just a really neat atmosphere. There were fires set, and there were people around the fires having meals and tents everywhere. It was just a really cool atmosphere, a very, very campy vibe. We saw them set off. It was pretty good. We got to see Rosie and Paul and all the people, and Kevin Sylvie, the race director, lead them out the gate. And it was just a very cool experience. You know, me and Ethan are big runners and big fans of ultramarathons and marathons. And I don't want to speak for Ethan, but we've never been around an event like that, especially a 100-miler of that caliber. And from what I've heard from most people, it might be the hardest 100-miler in America, the Froggy Mountain 100. So we see him set off Friday. I think Ethan came back Friday night and watched him. And then we both came Saturday. Ethan did a pretty good amount of loops with him Saturday, and I did about 2 that evening. And the weather was beautiful, both Friday and Saturday. And for those of you who don't know, they did invite people to run the loop with them throughout the weekend because it was a long weekend. They thought it was going to take 60 hours to run it. So people from all over town and all over the surrounding areas and even the surrounding states came up to run with them throughout the weekend. It was a very cool experience. So they thought they were going to finish Sunday evening. So me and Ethan headed up Sunday morning, and we did 7 laps with them throughout the day. And that might not sound like much, 7 miles, but the elevation gain was crazy. I think we clocked over 3,000 feet in just 7 miles. And that was hard for us. Think about how hard it was for the runners around the 100-milers. I think they clocked close to 50,000 feet elevation gain throughout the weekend, which is absolutely insane. But the weather was good for that morning. In the afternoon, though, we started to have problems. They called for rain at 1 o'clock, and it did rain. About 1 o'clock, it just came a downpour. Me and Ethan were, I think, on lap 6, and we ran the next 2 miles in the pouring rain and mud. And for those of you who haven't been on Froggy Mountain, it's a single hard dirt track that's straight up and straight down. So when it started raining hard, it turned into a river. It was just a really, really fun experience. It's probably one of my favorite runs of all time. We fell probably 20, 30 times, or at least I did. But at this time, when me and Ethan were struggling, Paul, Tilley, and the rest of them were moving forward at an incredible pace. I was shocked by it. They had just ran, at that point, 97, 98 miles, and here they were beating me and Ethan up on the mountain. So I think that goes to show you how incredible they are as athletes, as well as individuals. The whole weekend was just an incredible experience. They all finished at really good times considering the events that transpired and how hard it was. And one more thing I would like to add as I'm wrapping up here is just the atmosphere of the event. As Paul said, it was almost a trail running weekend for people. Even people who weren't running the race came up and did loops and supported everybody. I'd like to thank Paul and his wife for letting everybody come up and spend some time with them. The food was also incredible. It was one of the best aid stations I've ever seen. Everybody was extremely helpful with each other, very encouraging, just very good vibes throughout the whole weekend, and sometimes you don't see that. It was just a very special group of people and a very special weekend. So thank you to Mr. Paul Tilley for putting the event on, giving me and Ethan an opportunity to come and record people. Everybody was very happy to talk to us, to be put on our Facebook pages and our Instagram pages, and we're very excited about next year. Thank you.
That was freaking epic.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. Oh my gosh. That was crazy course.
That was awesome.
Wow.
How was the rain?
It was like a swimming pool.
Yeah, it was.
So much rain.
It was
oh
crazy.
My gosh. And all the trails were like rivers, so we're like trying to just bounce off the stick. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Me and him fell like.
I was really excited because
Oh, these are nice
it's like
shoes.
epic if you slip in the
It
mud.
was soft
you know?
landings though. It was
Oh yeah,
fun.
exactly, yeah. I only fell twice, which isn't bad because I was going as fast as I could. So
Yeah.
luckily I had poles.
Yeah.
And the trees.
Paul gave up his poles. He left them.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
right
that's
before
crazy.
it started raining.
Oh yeah. Oh he left them and then went and ran.
Oh.
Like he ran without them purposely.
Oh, without.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
wow!
crazy. He was flying though. Me and Luke couldn't keep up with him.
Oh wow!
Let me just start by saying, wow, what an incredible weekend. Luke was right. It really was a weekend of running. There were people running the entire time. And I don't just mean Paul, Rosie, Zach, Andy, and Adam. It was everyone. We had people from the Gaelic Swimming Club there, just people dropping by from Georgia to say hi, people from North Carolina, other parts of Virginia. There were people from all parts of the country dropping by and to witness this really historic moment. It was truly awesome to see how many people we had come out and support Paul and the rest of the runners, and just really wanting to see everyone succeed and do well and finish the race. I would also like to give a lot of thanks to Kevin. He RD'd the entire race, all 100 miles, all 60 or so hours for everyone. And if you don't know what an RD is, that's our race director. He directed the race, he made the food, he sometimes even ran with the runners. He did absolutely everything that he could to help ensure that everyone finished and had the best experience possible. And I would just like to give him a shout out. It was truly remarkable how he was able to manage everything and still be energetic and funny and be supportive for all the runners who needed a little boost when they came by. I would also like to thank Kim, Paul's wife, who was just as helpful as Kevin. She was always getting food and making food for everyone, talking to people, making sure they were alright, asking them if they needed anything. She went and got supplies and worked on the torches and the fires and the lights. She worked incredibly hard to make sure that everything was perfect for the race day. I would also like to thank Andy and everything that he did to create the arch. In a few of the Facebook and Instagram photos, you can see an arch. That was our starting line. He designed and built the whole thing from scratch. And then once he reached the Froggy Mountain course, he and a few other members of the Froggy Mountain running team carried it, set up all the pieces, built it, and then put it up. All before the race, the night before the race. It was a beautiful piece of wood, and I'm not really doing it justice. You just have to see it in the photos. It's beautiful. And I believe Paul mentioned that he was going to burn the Froggy Mountain logo into the wood over the arch, I guess. Something else about Andy, which I found particularly memorable and remarkable. After he had gotten done running, I think on Saturday, he had decided to start chopping wood. So he decided he had ran enough on Saturday. I don't remember exactly where he was at, but he was pretty high up there. So he decided he needed to relax a little bit, I guess. So he started lining up wood. He took the axe and he just started chopping it. And he did this for a pretty long time. And I kind of thought it was amusing that he had enough energy and he just enjoyed chopping wood, which is an activity that most people would consider pretty strenuous, but he enjoyed it enough to do it after he'd already ran probably 60 miles at that point. And yeah, I would also like to mention that Andy helped with the food and the preparation and all of the resources for the three who finished on Sunday when Luke and I were still there. Andy on Sunday, I believe, took a break from running to see Rosie finish, and ever since after he took that break, he was preparing food. He was making sure everyone had blankets and towels to dry off when it started raining. He was just as instrumental in the whole process as anyone else, really. I really believe that this was a group effort, and that without everyone doing what they did, it wouldn't have went as well as it did. There's also something else really funny that I would like to mention, and Kevin is going to laugh at this when he hears it. When Luke and I were running with Paul in the last 3 laps, I guess, Paul was looking a little bit rough. He was tired. I think he was feeling a little bit demotivated. He was stumbling a little bit. I think Andy decided, this is what I was talking about earlier when Andy was being a little big help. Andy tried to talk to him and get him to eat some, and Paul ate a biscuit, and that helped him a little bit. But Kevin came over to Luke and I after Paul had already took off, because he just grabbed a biscuit and left. And Kevin said, I need you and he's talking to me and Luke, I need you guys to just run past him as hard as you can. Just absolutely leave him in the dust. So Luke and I do it. And we sprint past him up the infamous hill, and at this point it's raining pretty hard, and we're like, well, there's no way Paul can catch us. Like, it's just pouring. So we're about halfway through the course, and we had a pretty sizable lead on Paul. And we look behind us, and it's pouring, and he's a monster. He's climbing up the trail. He's going as fast as he can. And I look at Luke and I say, he's going to catch us. So by the time we finish that loop, Paul is right behind us, and he sprints through the loop counter, like the archway. He sprints through the archway. And I sometimes refer to it as the finish line, but it technically wasn't a finish line at that point. It was just the archway. He just sprints through the line, and I mean he's probably running 5-minute mile pace. That's how fast he's going. And Luke and I just looked at Kevin and we were like, well, you were right. And it was just amazing to see the difference that made. Kevin said he just needed the extra bit of motivation. And when I came back on sometime Saturday, Paul was at mile 62, I think. And he was taking a nap. So Kevin told me to go over to Paul, and because Paul was kind of waking up at this point, Kevin told me to go over to him and say that it was time to go. And he said that he would think it was funny. So I went over, told Paul that it was time to go, and Paul just kind of laughs and looks at me and puts his shoes on, and he says that he's going to go take a shower, and then that we were going to just go hit some laps. So we went and got a shower, got some food in them, and then we did 6 laps. Just bam, 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 bam. And it was dark by the time we stopped. And I was just very impressed by really the speed at which we were going, because at that point, you have to remember, we had climbed Mount Everest. Paul had climbed Mount Everest. I hadn't climbed Mount Everest, but at that point, Paul had climbed Mount Everest, and I was with him for a very small portion of that, and I was exhausted. I cannot imagine how Paul was feeling. But he kept going, and he kept going strong, and he was just getting faster and faster and faster. And I think Strava shows this a little bit. It shows him speeding up at some points and slowing down in others, of course, with the lulls and the highs, but it was just amazing. And then, of course, by the end of the race, Rosie had finished first, Zach had finished just a bit behind her, and then Paul had finished, and it's just surreal. It was so amazing to see everyone. It was really such an inspiration, and I know I'm not the only one who was inspired. I know that Luke was inspired. I know that Zach, and not the 100-mile runner Zach, but Paul's nephew Zach was inspired. Paul's nephew Zach was out there Saturday running laps with everyone else. He ran 8 laps at the age of 12 or 13, barefoot, in jeans, and a belt. He was letting nothing stop him. When we asked him why he stopped wearing his shoes, he said he didn't want to mess them up, so he ran barefoot. Of course. It was just amazing to watch him run and really realize the impact that Paul, Rosie, and Zach were having on him. They inspired him to run, and they inspired him to try something that is incredibly difficult. 1 lap on that course is challenging, let alone 8, let alone without shoes. I think that's really what this is about. It's inspiring people to try hard things, to push themselves, and to do something, and it's just amazing to me. I cannot, I can't put it into words. This was just amazing all around. I am blown away by Zach, Paul, and Rosie. They are truly the hardest, strongest, toughest human beings on the planet. I was really touched by Rosie's motivation, which she talked about in my previous interview with her, and how she was able to do what she did and why she did it. And this is something that really impacted Kevin as well. Kevin had a similar experience with his nephew, and he told us all about it Thursday night before the race. He told us the impact that veteran suicide had on him and why running was such an important thing to him and how it had really helped him. And it's similar for Rosie. Running helps her, and she runs for Dexter, her son, and for the other soldiers who have taken their lives. And it's just heartbreaking, but it is an amazing cause that they're running for, and I cannot imagine. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of Paul and Zach. It was just amazing. I'm speechless.
Here I am with the number 1, number 2, number 3 finishers of the Froggy Mountain 100 miler. It's the toughest race in North America. These are the 3 toughest people in North America. This is the force to be reckoned with. It's Rosie, it's the milkman, and Zach. Thank you for being here. Congratulations.
And as we're wrapping up here, I would really like to point out the fact that this course was just a monster. This race was a monster. Paul, Zach, and Rosie each had to summit Mount Everest 1.5 times and run 100 miles in less than 60 hours. Please go follow Froggy Mountain Adventures on Facebook. Reach out to Paul and congratulate him. Reach out to Rosie and Zach and congratulate them. I would also like to thank Farm to Feet for sponsoring Paul and Froggy Mountain and for giving out socks to everyone who came by and visited. That was amazing of them. Thank you. Although I don't represent Froggy Mountain, I do recognize the fact that that was an amazing thing, and thank you for doing that and for giving Paul and his family and his friends that opportunity. That was amazing. Thank you again to Kevin. Thank you to Andy for the arch. Thank you for Adam for coming out here and running 100 miles just a few weeks after being hit by a car. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that during the episode, but that's amazing. Thank you to Rosie for coming out here and making this your 53rd, 100-mile race. Thank you to Zach for making this your first. It was all amazing, and thank you to all of your friends and family, everyone that Luke and I have met through the weekend have been amazing. Like he said, they were so kind, so gracious. They were always trying to help anyone and everyone that they can. Runners truly are the best people on the road. Also, just a tidbit. If anyone's curious where the name Froggy Mountain came from, at the base of the course that they ran 100 loops around, there's a lake or a pond, I guess. And inside that pond, there are frogs. And at night, the frogs make noise, and you can hear it echo throughout the entire trail. And I think that's pretty cool. That's a great name, and that's a great way to end the episode. Thank you all for listening. I know this episode has been a little bit different, but this is something that really mattered to me and Luke, and we really want to give this the coverage that it deserves and spread the word about this event and try to get it on the map a little bit. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out through the website, through the email, whatever, and take care. Thanks. Also, as a side note, if anyone that attended the race and has pictures or videos, if you could send those to me, that'd be great. I'm planning on making a video collage of sorts, just compiling the pictures from the weekend and posting it on YouTube/Facebook. And I would appreciate all the pictures that I can get so I can include those. Send them to thewagepodcast@gmail.com or find my contact information on the website. And yeah, thanks.